Here are 5 films from 1931 that you're going to want to check out. Be sure to make it to the end of the video because number 5 is a doozy. First on our list is City Lights. While other filmmakers were still struggling how to make sound films sound good, Charles Chaplin decided, let's just focus on the story and keep sound out of it. He decided sound was a joke, and he even shows it in the first scene of this movie. Our second film of this list is The Public Enemy. This is during the pre-code era, so violence and sex was everywhere at this time. James Cagney plays Tom Powers, one of the most vicious, ruthless criminals that there is. You see his entire rise from childhood all the way up until adulthood as one of the toughest gangsters that ever lived. James Cagney gives one of his wonderful performances, so great they'd be asking him to do it over and over for the next few years while he was at Warner Brothers. Our third film is the Spanish language version of Dracula. During this time, they used to shoot 2 different versions of the movie, one for English audiences and one for Spanish-speaking audiences. The crew had the advantage, foresight, to sit and watch them shoot all day, all the Bela Lugosi scenes, and then they decided to tweak it and make a far superior film. I would check this one out in addition to the original, but this is the superior of the 2. Fourth on our list is Frankenstein. Frankenstein has always been better than Dracula, at least in my opinion. He had the better film and he had the better series. If you like this list and you want to see more content like this, be sure to follow me at the Paradise Cafe. And finally on our list is Fritz Lang's M, a perfect example of German expressionism and, proto-noir. Fritz Lang and Peter Lorre would eventually make their way to America before the onset of World War II. It's a very interesting movie about a child killer and how the town deals with him. There are 5 films from 1932 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the video because number 5 is a bit of a doozy. Number 1 on our list is The Mummy. Boris Karloff breaks out of his Frankenstein character and brings us a little bit more in The Mummy. It's a wonderful movie, and if you've seen the 1999 version, you owe it to yourself to see this version. Second on our list is Red Dust, which stars Jean Harlow and Clark Gable. They're a wonderful pairing. This film would later be made again as Mogumbo, but the original is far superior. Next on our list, another Red movie with Jean Harlow, Red-Headed Woman, where she gives a career-defining performance as a gold digger who will stop nothing to get what she wants. This is a very wonderful movie and a prime example of what a pre-code film should be. Next on our list is the granddaddy of all gangster films, Scarface. Howard Hughes' production of a Howard Hawks movie. Yes, there's a couple of Howards in there. But everything that you want in a gangster movie is right here. This broke all the rules. This completely blew Little Caesar and The Public Enemy out of the water. Paul Muni was an overnight sensation, and his childlike performance gives so much to this movie. If you've seen the 1983 version of Scarface, you really owe it to yourself to see the original. That and the fact you'll understand The Departed just a little bit better. Like what you've been seeing so far? Want to see more content? Want to see more lists? Be sure to like and follow because I'll be doing stuff like this all the damn time. And finally on our list is Carl Theodor Dreyer's Vampire. Guillermo del Toro delivers a wonderful commentary track, and I highly, highly, highly recommend you seek it out because everything you need to know about this film is within his commentary track. That does it for today. Come back tomorrow for 1933. Oof, more good films. I've been Julian. This has been The Paradise. I'll see you next time. 5 films from 1933 that you're going to want to check out. Be sure to stay to the end, well, because the 5th one, it's a little bit different. Number 1 on our list is Babyface, which stars Barbara Stanwyck. Just about a woman trying to move up in the company. How does she do this? Well, you're going to have to watch to find out. Next on our list is Dinner at 8, which was a who's who of comedy at the time, still regarded as one of the finest comedies of its era. I highly recommend you check this one out because it is something else. Next on our list is King Kong, the granddaddy of stop animation motion picture filmmaking. It's a wonderful movie. If you've never seen it, you owe it to yourself to see this. If you've seen the Peter Jackson one, you're like, I'm okay. No, check this one out. This is the better one. Next on our list is The Invisible Man, starring Claude Rains. Claude Rains, one of the finest actors ever, but you'd always see him in more of a supporting role. A rare starring role for the man, but this is one of his finest performances, and adding yet another Universal monster to the mix. Be sure to check this one out because it's a lot of fun. If you've liked this content and want to see more of it, be sure to like, comment. What's your favorite movie from 1933? I really want to know. Number 5 is The Lady Killer, which stars James Cagney. It's a movie that you won't remember, but you'll remember James Cagney. Just showing you how star power can sometimes be better than the movie itself. That's what the movies are all about. Thank you so much for joining me, Julian, at the Paradise Cafe. I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1934 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list if you want to see what film was the first to do a clean sweep at the Oscars. Tarzan and His Mates. Following up on Tarzan the Ape Man, we have this very, very controversial movie, most notable due to the high amount of nudity, including an underwater sequence, as well as a very revealing outfit worn by Jane in this film. It is inducted into the National Film Registry, and it is very much worth your time. What was the last film that John Dillinger saw? Well, it was Manhattan Melodrama, featuring Myrna Loy, evidently who he really enjoyed watching, and William Powell. This movie is probably more notable because of its relationship to John Dillinger than itself. However, the 2 stars in this would go on to make a series of films that would make a very big impact. That series of films would be The Thin Man, once again featuring William Powell and Myrna Loy. What could be better than a married couple, an actual married couple that likes each other and has fun with each other and, has a couple of drinks and goes and solves a couple of crimes. This was rare for the time because everyone's either in a rush to get out of a marriage to get into another marriage or just get divorced just to be alone. This relationship between the two would be very, very influential on Iron Man and Pepper Potts in the Avengers film. Alfred Hitchcock's The Man It Knew Too Much, the first one. In 1934, Alfred Hitchcock was still making a name for himself, yet in Hollywood, and he wasn't the master of suspense quite yet. However, this early gem is very much worth your time. I highly suggest finding a Guillermo del Toro interview where he lays out why this film is so genius. If you want a fun double feature, check out the 1956 film as well and see which one you like better. Like this list? Want to see more like it? Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, anything you want to do. Please comment below, what was your favorite film of 1934? And finally we have It Happened One Night. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Screenplay. This film has it all. One of Clark Gable's best movies. Yes, I said it, best movies, if not my favorite Clark Gable movie, because that other one, it's kind of long for me. Very entertaining and one of the best Frank Capra movies. If you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. It's hilarious, and geez, just give it a shot. Thank you so much for joining me at the Paradise Cafe. I'll see you next time. 5 films from 1935 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list though, because the last one is the perfect example of a MacGuffin. G-Men. The code was now in full force. Instead, what do we do with all these glorified gangster actors? Well, we put them on the other side of the law. G-Man has James Cagney now as a government man doing pretty much the same things on the other side of the law. Bride of Frankenstein. Our first real big horror sequel, and probably the best of the franchise. Bride of Frankenstein tops the first one in so many ways. It's absolutely beautiful, and you have to watch it. Just check it out. Werewolf in London. Universal's earlier attempt to try to do the Wolfman character. Most notably, Warner Oland's in this. Next, we have Mutiny on the Bounty. Charles Laughton and Clark Gable, but for some reason, certain posters don't even have Charles Laughton. Classic tale. Wonderful movie, and Charles Laughton is always giving his best. If you like this list and you want to see more content like this, be sure to like, comment, and follow me. Come on, what do you got to lose? Finally, Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps. What are the 39 Steps? Well, you're going to have to watch the movie to figure that one out. World's best example of a MacGuffin, and it's so great I don't even want to spoil it for you, so you're just going to have to check it out. Early Hitchcock classic. Check it out. Here are 5 films from 1936 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because I would really appreciate it. Fury, directed by Fritz Lang. Yes, our famous Fritz Lang from M is now in America directing Spencer Tracy in this very, very controversial film. It's about mob rule and being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Next we have Frank Capra's Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. If you've never seen a Frank Capra movie, their term Capricorn is one of the most apt ways to describe them. They're corny, they're shucks, but they're a lot of fun and they're excellent films. I really, really, really recommend you watch this, especially if you've seen Adam Sandler's Mr. Deeds. Next we have The Libeled Lady. Yes, Jean Harlow, Myrna Loy, and William Powell. It's a wonderful film. I really, really enjoy this one. It's really, really funny, and I highly recommend you check this one out. Next we have Charles Chaplin's Farewell to the Silent Film. He makes it in 1936, well into the sound era, modern times. Enough can't be said about this movie. One of my favorite moments is the last scene in which the tramp makes his final walk down and off our screens, now down a paved road instead of its usual gravel. Excellent movie, check it out. If you like this list and you want to see more content like this, be sure to follow me at the Paradise Cafe. We'd love to hear from you. And finally, we have The Petrified Forest. Betty Davis, Leslie Howard, and a very young Humphrey Bogart. This was adapted from the stage play, and Leslie Howard was a very big star at the time, and when he signed on to the movie, he refused to do it unless they brought Humphrey Bogart from the stage play with him. So, wow, scratching one's back there. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this list. I'll see you next time when we're in 1937. Here are 5 films from 1937 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list though, because I really would appreciate it. It has a lot to do with this movie. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yes, it's a movie that you hear about all the time now in basic everyday news. However, the original is very important because of its introduction of the 3-strip Technicolor film process. This would be revolutionary in Hollywood and would basically lead to the adoption of color as the new standard. Please check this film out. It is very well worth your time for its technical merits as well as its storytelling. Highly worth your time. Next we have The Young and the Innocent, a perfect example of an amateur fine-tuning his craft before he becomes the master. This is one of the earliest examples of Alfred Hitchcock having a couple on the run. He would later revisit this topic and theme in multiple ensuing movies. However, this is one of the earliest examples, and it's highly, highly worth your time. Next we have Jean Renoir's The Grand Illusion. I once had a French film teacher. It says, "I don't want to talk about it. I refuse to read any more papers. It's talked about to death." What do you think of the movie? Next we have Make Way for Tomorrow. This movie would make a stone cry, or at least that's what Orson Welles told Peter Bogdanovich. This film is heartbreaking and has some of the most beautiful moments ever put to screen. It's so emotional. It is a perfect melodrama of its time, and it's about how being older could be a burden, especially on the younger people's families, depending on the poster you see. Very, very wonderful movie. Like this list? Want to see more like it? Be sure to like and comment. Give me a subscribe. Come on, what do you got to lose? I like making content like this, and maybe you like watching too. Next we have Pepe Le Moco, a very, very early influence on this movie, Casablanca. But how do you get to Pepe Le Moco to Casablanca? Well, Pepe Le Moco was a wonderful film which had that studio feel that Casablanca is most known for, and it was eventually remade in America as Algiers. And when they finally saw the script, Everybody Comes to Rick's, they decided to make Casablanca in the lieu of Algiers, which was based off Pepe Le Moco. Here are 5 films from 1938 that you're going to want to check out. But be sure to stay to the end of the video because something is amiss. Frank Capra's You Can't Take It With You, probably my favorite of all of his films. It has a very soft spot in my heart. I just love watching it because it's just a movie that it's hard not to feel good after you watch it. Highly recommend it. Great performances all around. Edward G. Robinson stars in A Slight Case of Murder, a wonderful, wonderful comedy, which is one of my favorite of this period. It's a lot of fun, and geez, it's really goofy. Check it out. Edward G. Robinson parodies his Little Caesar performance yet again, and it is just hilarious. Alfred Hitchcock's The Lady Vanishes. Yes, this is probably the master at his peak in England. He would do one final film after this, with Charles Laughton actually, called Jamaica Inn. However, that film pales in comparison to this one. Highly, highly recommend you check this one out. A thriller for the ages. Bringing Up Baby. Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, a tiger. Yes, that is the film. Like this list? Want to see more content like this and other stuff? Be sure to like and follow, favorite it, and look for some of these Easter eggs. And finally we have Angels with Dirty Faces, starring James Cagney, Pat O'Brien, and the Dead End Kids. This film had a huge influence on me as a kid because I had watched It's Never Too Late from Batman the Animated Series. I know, a whole show based on a movie that would later influence me to make a list like this. One of the fine performances from James Cagney, and this is one of his toughest roles, and probably the best part of this is the end of the movie with the very ambiguous ending. He goes to the electric chair, and on his way, prior to him leaving, You know what? I'm not going to spoil it. You should just check it out. Here are 5 films from 1939 that you should check out, but be sure to stay to the end because one never knows what could happen at the Paradise Cafe. First, we got Son of Frankenstein, which is the third in the Boris Karloff trilogy. It's often overshadowed by the first 2 entries, however this one is very well worth your time. Very notable for its German expressionistic feel. I highly recommend this, as well as all the other Frankenstein films. John Ford's Stagecoach, starring John Wayne. This film is very dated by today's standards, however, from its technical merits, it is still one of the most unbelievable films. A lot of forced perspective and really shows you what filmmaking is all about through its editing. Next we have The Wizard of Oz, the all-time classic film. My favorite still is the sepia into color. It was one of the most impressive moments for me as a child, and it really opened up my eyes to how much fun filmmaking can be just through the use of color alone. David O. Selznick's Gone with the Wind. David O. Selznick is definitely a character you need to know about, and if you don't, I would highly recommend looking him up. He famously went through 5 directors during the making of this film and still wasn't satisfied. He would also be the first, I think only, producer to have back-to-back Best Pictures, and that's pretty impressive. Like this list, want to see more of it? Be sure to follow me at the Paradise Cafe or on Instagram at Paradise Cafe. Oh. Next we have Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Frank Capra and Jimmy Stewart are always a good combination. It's very fun, it's very corny, and it's supposed to give you hope into the whole judicial system. A really big highlight for this film for me is Claude Rains, because Claude Rains is always fun to see in any movie. He's just great. Thank you so much for joining me here at the Paradise Cafe. I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1940 that you should check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the video because one never knows what could happen here at the Paradise Cafe. First on our list is Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca. Yes, Best Picture 2 years in a row for David O. Selznick, as well as Sisters having Best Actress. Isn't that kind of crazy? Charlie Chaplin finally speaks. Yes, we've made it to 1940 and he's finally going to speak. Now featuring a barber character, not quite the tramp, but very similar looking. He also plays a dual role as a dictator of this country, kind of similar to a dictator that was currently at the time. I don't know who that could be. There's a wonderful speech at the end of the movie where he completely breaks the 4th wall and just looks right at the audience and gives a plea from an artist's point of view. It's a very big moment in history as well as cinema, so check that one out. They Drive by Night. Half road movie, half film noir. We got George Raff, Ann Sheridan, Ida Lupino, and of course, Humphrey Bogart in this wonderful film. This film would be a big win for Bogart because the next few would really help him in his career. But this film is really fun and well worth your time. Check it out. Brother Orchid, a film where a gangster hides out in a flower cult in order to evade being captured and killed. So during his time there, he plans his escape, but he's trying to lay low. Very interesting plot, and Edward G. Robinson gives a wonderful performance as always. Like this list? Want to see more content like this? Be sure to follow us here at the Paradise Cafe or on Instagram at Paradise Cafe. Hope to see you there. Gaslight. The original version was actually made in the UK, years before Ingrid Bergman had made that famous film, which the term is based off of. This film, however, is its superior in a few ways. It's a lot tighter, less melodramatic, and I really like the performances, so I would highly check this one out. That's all for today. Here are 5 films from 1941 that you should check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list though, because anything could happen here on the Paradise Cafe. Humphrey Bogart stars in High Sierra, which is a wonderful gangster movie that transitions him from B player to A player. Within a few years, he'd be starring in this film, and the rest would be history. Wonderful performances also by Ida Lupino, and great writing by John Huston, as well as great directing by Raoul Walsh. Preston Sturges writes and directs, rare for the time, Sullivan's Travels, which is about a director about to make his magnum opus film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which sounds kind of familiar. I think the Coen brothers might have made a movie about it. Ever wonder if Alfred Hitchcock could do comedy? Well, of course he could, and if couldn't do it with anyone better than Carol Lombard in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. No relation to the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie version. This is a very fun screwball comedy directed by the master of suspense himself. Is it great? Yeah, give it a shot. The granddaddy of all films, Citizen Kane, which so many people reference because of its legendary status amongst film critics as the best film of all time. One of the most important films of all time, I do agree. Like this list? Want to see more content like it? Be sure to like, follow here at the Paradise Cafe on TikTok, and right up here, Paradise Cafe on Instagram. Look forward to seeing you. And finally, we have the Maltese Falcon, the stuff that dreams are made out of. One of the most iconic movie props of all time is the Maltese Falcon itself. This was the second remake within 10 years, and it is obviously the best one, showing that remakes can indeed be superior to their originals. This film has wonderful performances by Humphrey Bogart as well as Mary Astor. John Huston, first-time director, and knocks it out of the park, as well as Humphrey Bogart becoming that next step onto him being the leading man for Warner Brothers moving on years from now. Highly recommend this film as well as anything else that you've seen today. Be sure to come back and visit me here at the Paradise Cafe. I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1942 that you should check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because one never knows what could happen here at the Paradise Cafe. To be or not to be? That's our first film today, and it is great. Ernst Lubitsch directs Jack Benny on one of my favorite films during this time. It is hilarious. I can't recommend it highly enough, especially selections from Hamlet. Just watch that scene and you're guaranteed to have a good laugh. Next we have This Gun for Hire, starring Alan Ladd and Veronica Lake, a Universal film noir. This film cannot be missed. I highly recommend you watch it because noir is always a good thing. Larceny Inc., which is my favorite of the Edward G. Robinson comedies. This film is hilarious. Basically, a gangster gets released from prison and purchases a luggage store which is adjacent to a bank with the intentions of robbing it. It's a very fun film, and there's some great performances in there as well. Look for Anthony Quinn, and also a very young Jackie Gleason might be behind the bar. How do you follow up Citizen Kane? The Magnificent Ambersons, that's how. This film may not be as well known as Citizen Kane, but it doesn't mean it's any less of a good film, or great film. A lot of people have praised this as a masterpiece in its own right, but what do you think? You need to let me know. And finally on our list, we have Casablanca, one of my all-time favorite films. This film is the perfect Hollywood film. It's on a lot of top 10 lists, a lot of lists. It's very quotable. It's everything that you could want in a Hollywood movie. Can't emphasize that enough. Humphrey Bogart basically makes his star overnight, along with Ingrid Bergman. We also have Claude Rains, Sidney Greenstreet, as well as Peter Lorre. This film is just so much fun. I watch it all the time. It's made reference in so many movies, and as a child, seeing so many references before the actual movies was kind of the standard. But if you have the time, I highly recommend you watching it, and especially for the wonderful song, As Time Goes By, which honestly could be played by anyone, and it'll still be a great song. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list with me, and now we know the story of the poster. What's gonna happen next? You'll have to tune in and find out. Here are 5 films from 1943 that you're gonna wanna check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list though, because one never knows what could happen here at the Paradise Cafe. First we have Sanshiro Sugata, which is the directorial debut by Akira Kurosawa. This would be his first ongoing collaborator with the star of the film, and he eventually would make a sequel to this very next year. Wonderful start to an epic career that spans 30 films. I highly recommend you start at the beginning, that way you could appreciate him at his end. Next we have Alfred Hitchcock's personal favorite film of his that he made, Shadow of a Doubt, the wonderful, beautiful, suburban film noir starring Joseph Cotten. This film is just awesome in every single possible way. A criminal tries to hide out within his family as that weird uncle who has a very mysterious past. My favorite shot of this film, and maybe one of my favorite shots of all time, is a slow zoom up on his face when he's giving this speech, and it's just him like this, and he keeps doing, and then he just turns and he says, "Are they?" It's a wonderful moment, and it shows Alfred Hitchcock perfect at telling stories with suspense and beautiful camera work. Highly recommend you check this film out. Next we have the Oxbow Incident. Yes, this one's a very dark one, but John Ford, Henry Fonda. Next we have the Oxbow Incident, one of the darker movies of this year. This one stars Henry Fonda, and it is very very moving. Similar to The Fury that Fritz Lang directed, this film has that mob mentality and jumping the gun when it comes to justice and vigilantism. Highly recommend you check it out. Ernst Lubitsch's Heaven Can Wait, a wonderful film featuring Don Amici and Gene Tierney. It's a comedy movie about a man at the end of his life revisiting every one of his birthdays with the devil. He's trying to think of where he could have improved his life, but at the same time you see a story that develops, and it's a beautiful romance. Very fun movie. If not, I love seeing Gene Tierney, so highly recommend you see it. Like this list, want to see more content like it? Be sure to like, share, follow, favorite, do all that stuff. I'm here at the Paradise Cafe on TikTok and up here at Paradise Cafe on Instagram. I hope to see you there. The Phantom of the Opera. This one is not the most famous of any of the adaptations, but it has Claude Rains and it's going on this list. It's also a color movie, which is kind of fun because previous adaptations were all black and white, and this is one of the color film monster movies by default. When you usually think of Frankenstein, Dracula, Werewolf, they're all black and white, and that was kind of a theme. But to see one in color is kind of fun. But this is also a well-known movie because it had been done previously and more famously in the silent era. That's the one people usually think of when it's the Phantom of the Opera. But this one is still worth your time, and if anything, to see Claude Rains and Universal to try to expand their horror canon. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been Julian, and I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1944 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because one never knows what can happen here at the Paradise Cafe. To have or have not, a film that feels a lot like Casablanca, but this time it features Lauren Bacall, and it's our Bogart and Bacall type movie, so why not? It's a great movie. I hope you check it out. Double Indemnity. We got Edward G. Robinson, Fred McMurray, and of course Barbara Stanwyck in Billy Wilder's wonderful film noir. Highly recommend you check this one out because this is one that most people go to as their favorite. Can you shoot a film entirely on a lifeboat? Alfred Hitchcock tried this in this World War II thriller, which is pretty cool, and I highly recommend you check it out because it is the first of many confined space movies that Alfred Hitchcock would experiment with. This is a lot of fun, and try to check it out. Otto Preminger's Laura, starring Gene Tierney as well as Dana Andrews. One of the first film noirs I remember getting really behind, and it's one that people talk about often. A detective falls in love with a dead woman's portrait in quite a interesting twist and turn of events, including Clifton Webb as well as Vincent Price. This film is a lot of fun, and I think anyone who likes films could try this, not seeing any old movies, and really enjoy it. Like this list? Want to see more content like it? Follow me here at the Paradise Cafe on TikTok or up here, Paradise Cafe on Instagram. I'll hope to see you there. Gaslight, the Hollywood version. This one stars Ingrid Bergman and Joseph Cotton. This one is a little more melodramatic than the previous version, but this one is a lot of fun. And how famous does a movie have to be for it to actually have a term derived from it? Highly recommend you check this out. Thank you for joining me here at the Paradise Cafe. I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1945 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because one never knows what could happen here at the Paradise Cafe. Leave Her to Heaven, starring Gene Tierney, Vincent Price, and Cornel Wilde. This is such a dark film noir, but it's in beautiful Technicolor. Spellbound, Ingrid Bergman, Gregory Peck, Alfred Hitchcock, and a little bit of Salvatore Dali. The Lost Weekend, directed by Billy Wilder. It won the Grand Prix at the Cannes Film Festival, as well as Best Picture. Fallen Angel. Come on, we all know he likes Alice Faye and Otto Preminger. And film noir, Scarlet Street. Edward G. Robinson and Fritz Lang. There can't be a better combination in this very, very dark film noir. Twilight Zone themey in its way. Thank you so much for joining me at the Paradise Cafe. I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1946 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, though, because one never knows what could happen here at the Paradise Cafe. Is Alfred Hitchcock's Notorious. Yes, this is one of my all-time favorite films, and I'll mention it in every single list that I can possibly list it in. Notorious, starring Cary Grant, Claude Rains, and Ingrid Bergman, with Alfred Hitchcock and a screenplay by Ben Hecht. The Big Sleep. Howard Hawks,
Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. What could go wrong except understanding what the movie's about? I've watched this film countless times, and every so often I feel like I'm actually going to understand it. And by the end of the movie, I don't know what the hell is going on. The Dark Corner, which was a film noir starring Lucille Ball years before I Love Lucy. This is a very, very fun film, and it includes a wonderful performance that you didn't even know existed. Orson Welles directing film noir? Yes. Edward G. Robinson gives a wonderful performance chasing down Orson Welles. Here are 5 films from 1947 that you're going to want to check out. Body and Soul, John Garfield, one of the film gris, yes, I said film gris, not noir, icons. This is a wonderful movie, boxing and all. One Wonderful Sunday, directed by Akira Kurosawa. One of my favorite films in this moment is when one of the characters literally breaks the fourth wall in one of the worst possible days ever. They look to the audience and ask to start applauding just to help them keep going. Out of the past, what can we want more than Robert Mitchum and Kirk Douglas in this wonderful film noir that gives you all the tropes that you could possibly want in a film noir? Nightmare Alley. What do you get when you get Tyrone Power, Joan Blundell, and a very, very sneaky script? Well, you get one of the very divisive carny film noirs, which is a uniquity amongst all film noir. Finally, we have Monsieur Verdot. What would happen if Charlie Chaplin decided to make a black comedy about a lady killer? Literally. Well, this is the result of it. Based on an idea by Orson Welles, Charles Chaplin made this film, and it would be his last film that he made in America. Here are 5 films from 1948 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, though, because one never knows what can happen here at the Paradise Cafe. First, we have The Red Shoes, directed by The Archers. This is one of the best ballet dance movies of its time. The Archers were very well known for their Technicolor Next, films. We have Act of Violence. Robert Ryan and Van Heflin in this very smaller budget, suburban, slight city-like film noir. It is so good, I just say watch it. I can't even say anything more about it. Force of Evil. John Garfield returns in yet another film gris about the evils of society. What happens when Edward G. Robinson, Humphrey Bogart, and Lauren Bacall get together in the same film? Well, you get Key Largo. Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, one of my favorite of all of his films, and in his confined space set of films, which includes Lifeboat, Dial M for Murder, and of course this one. Here are 5 movies from 1949 that you're going to want to check out. Why? Why are we talking into a wire? Let's do that again. Here are 5 films from 1949 that you're going to want to check out. But be sure to stay to the end of the list because, you know, algorithm. First, we have Under Capricorn, Joseph Cotton, Ingrid Bergman, and Alfred Hitchcock. The setup, Robert Ryan, Audrey Totter in a noir that's in real time. Yes! Carol Reed's The Third Man. We have Orson Welles and Joseph Cotton. What else could you possibly want? Akira Kurosawa's The Quiet Duel starring Toshiro Mifune. A man who gets a STI by cutting his finger while doing surgery. And finally, we have The House of Strangers. Richard Conte and Edward G. Robinson. Oh my goodness, did you see this poster? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1950 that you want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list though, because you know algorithms and all that. John Huston's film noir masterpiece, The Asphalt Jungle, A Caper Gone Wrong. Look for a cameo by Marilyn Monroe. Where the Sidewalk Ends, Gene Tierney, Dana Andrews, and Otto Preminger, and here's the catch, it's not Laura. In a Lonely Place, Nicholas Ray and Humphrey Bogart team up and make this beautiful film noir about psychology and writing. Night and the City, Richard Widmark bites off a little more than he can chew, and eventually winds up paying for it. But there's a really fun cameo in here with a very, very famous wrestling trainer. Akira Kurosawa's masterpiece of Rashomon, which gives you the same story from 3 different points of view. It is one of the all-time greatest films. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in 1951. 23 Skidoo.
Here are 5 films from 1951 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because you know the drill. Ace in the Hole. How does Billy Wilder follow up one of the most successful films of all time in Sunset Boulevard? Well, he makes a very, very gray movie, which has had a lot of issues being released over the years, but you'll definitely want to check out The Big Carnival or Ace in the Hole. John Huston, Katharine Hepburn, and Humphrey Bogart? Well, it's the African Queen. Duh. Everyone's favorite LSD-inspired Disney movie, Alice in Wonderland. And of course, we know the best character in the entire movie is The Day the Earth Stood Still, one of the most important science fiction films of all time, and it was so great, Ringo Starr made an album homage to it. Finally, On Dangerous Ground, Robert Ryan and Ida Lupino in this beautiful film noir. You should really check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in 1952. Here are 5 films from 1952 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. You know why at this point. Angel Face, one of Robert Mitchum's lesser-known film noir. This one is very well worth your time. Deadline USA. Once again, we have film noir, we have Bogart, and we have journalist. Remember journalist film noir movies? Probably don't. Next, we have Akira Kurosawa's Ikadu. This movie is very, very wonderful, and especially that one scene on the swing. It makes you really think about life. Kansas City Confidential. Ever wonder what Reservoir Dogs would be like in the 1950s? Finally, we have Limelight. Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin share the stage for this epic scene. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in 1953. Here are 5 films from 1953 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because we already know the drill. The Big Heat. Ever wonder what Death Wish would be like in a film noir? Check this Glenn Ford Fritz Lang masterpiece out if you wanted to know. Stalag 17. Is there any stopping Billy Wilder? The Wages of Fear. One of the most suspenseful films of all time, and it's not directed by Alfred Hitchcock. But, I confess, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. This is one of his more smaller films, but it is very, very well worth your time. Finally, Pick Up Off South Street. We got Samuel Fuller, and we got one of the best of all time to do it. Check this one out. You'll really enjoy it. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. It's 54. Here are 5 films from 1954 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. Or Godzilla, the 1954 classic, which they always come back to in some form or fashion. See where this epic franchise began. Dial M for Murder, Alfred Hitchcock's confined space masterpiece, which is done in 3D nonetheless. Be sure to look out for some really interesting cameos, if you could find it. Johnny Guitar, Joan Crawford in a Western with Sterling Hayden? This one is actually pretty good. You'll have to check it out to figure out why. On the Waterfront. You've heard a lot about this movie, or maybe you haven't. If you haven't, check it out. Rear Window. Alfred Hitchcock's second film of this year, and one of his all-time greatest. It's all about confined space, and it's about voyeurism. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in 1955. Here are 5 films from 1955 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list for reasons. Come on. Kiss Me Deadly, the ultimate film noir, if not one of the top 5 film noir. Bride of the Monster. Most people might think Plan 9 is the one-all, be-all for Ed Wood, but really this is the better of the 2 films. To Catch a Thief. Cary Grant, Grace Kelly, and Alfred Hitchcock. Night of the Hunter. Love and Hate. Robert Mitchum gives a performance of his life in Charles Laughton's one and only directed film, The Trouble with Harry. What if they made Weekend at Bernie's in the 1950s? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. There's some buttons. Feel free to use them. Here are 5 films from 1956 that you're going to want to check out. Stay to the end of the list. Come on. Stanley Kubrick's The Killing, the movie that no doubt had a huge influence on Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Wow, that looks familiar. Stanley Kubrick shows his mastery of the genre very, very early on in his career. The Ten Commandments, starring Charlton Heston, one of the very epic films of this time. The Searchers, John Wayne and John Ford team up for their ultimate masterpiece in all of Westerns. The Wrong Man. This basically could be said about any of Hitchcock's films, but Henry Fonda teamed up for this Hitchcock based on a true story. The remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Now, technically, it might be a superior, but in terms of storytelling, I have to go with the original from 1934. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in 1957. Here are 5 films from 1957 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. 3:10 to Yuma. Van Heflin and Glenn Ford star in this classic Western, which was actually remade. And both are really good. 12 Angry Men. An all-star cast does. Confined space in a courtroom drama has never been better with this wonderful Sidney Lumet film, 12 Angry Men. A Face in the Crowd, a very dark look in terms of the entertainment industry and as well as the power of an influencer. Be sure to check this one out. It is a very dark movie. Sweet Smell of Success. This film would be a career ender for its director, but also would be one of the most enduring films of this period. Tony Curtis and Burt Lancaster give these very wonderful, sharp-tongued performances. Paths of Glory, Stanley Kubrick's World War I masterpiece starring Kirk Douglas. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I'll see you in 1958. Here are 5 films from 1958 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list, and it really helped. Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, a film that really didn't do much at the time, has gone to become his best known of all of his films. Be sure to check this one out because a lot of movies make a lot of references to it. Touch of Evil. Mostly considered the end of the classic film noir period, Orson Welles puts a beautiful bow on it. It also stars Charlton Heston and The Fly. 1950s horror at its best. Can we all say Vincent Price? The Blob, the classic drive-in monster movie starring Steve McQueen. Mon Uncle, the film that really put Jacques Tati on the map as Monsieur Hulot, even though it's his second appearance. You really should check this one out because... Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in 1959. Here are 5 films from 1959 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. North by Northwest, the ultimate Hitchcock thriller chase film. This film was so great, it even influenced the Family Guy comeback episode. The Anatomy of a Murder, a wonderful, wonderful courtroom drama with an excellent soundtrack by Duke Ellington. Some Like It Hot. This was, for years, considered one of the funniest movies of all time. It is a Billy Wilder classic, and it also has Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon in some of their best and funniest performances. Sleeping Beauty, technically one of the most beautiful films that Walt Disney has ever made. Probably the best one he's made under his lifetime. This film is fantastic, and be sure to see it in its widescreen version. Finally, we have Rio Bravo, classic Western with John Wayne, and they'd probably remake it a few more times. Maybe more than a few more times. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. We'll see you in the next decade. Here are 5 films from 1960 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. I would. Spartacus. Stanley Kubrick and Kirk Douglas team up. However, this time, they don't get along so well. Be sure to check this film out. It is quite a parting of the ways for these 2 characters. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. A lot has been said about this movie, and it is highly influential in the entire horror community. Be sure to check it out, and if you're not too busy, check out the sequels. They're not too bad. Billy Wilder's The Apartment. We've got Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine in the Oscar-winning comedy that everyone needs to check out. Eyes Without a Face, a horror art movie from France. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1961 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. Yojimbo, Akira Kurosawa's classic samurai film that has been remade more times than I want to talk about. 1, 2, 3. This movie is about James Cagney as a Pepsi salesman during the Cold War. It's an interesting one. West Side Story. Do I really need to say anything about this film? Do I? 101 Dalmatians. A wonderful film, but the animation takes a very big turn from the previous entries. Last Year at Mariband. If you ever wanted a more confusing movie, check this one out. What got me to see this movie? Seeing photos of the movie in color. That was what got me to see the movie. I was like, there's a lot of purple in there. And then I went and watched a black and white movie. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1962 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Cape Fear. We're talking Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum in this ultra-classic film noir. It was even remade once. Dr. No, the first of the EON James Bond franchise. Everything or Nothing. To Kill a Mockingbird, based on the classic novel, La Jetée, a film shown only in photographs and dubbed based on where you saw it in the world. This is an influence on 12 Monkeys, but very good movie to watch. Finally, we have Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Joan Crawford and Bette Davis. Sparks flew, and they will every time you watch this. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1963 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. How the West is Won. This movie might be one of the few that's actually shot in Cinerama that is possible to see in Cinerama if you use the Smile Box format. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, then you're really missing out. It's a mad, 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 mad world. This movie features almost everyone who was anyone in the comedy field at that time. Check this one out. Irma la Douce, Billy Wilder, Shirley MacLaine, and Jack Lemmon team up to make this wonderful adaptation. I Remember Green. Charade, the ultimate Hitchcock movie that Hitchcock did not make. Stanley Donen directs Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn in this wonderfully zany classic spy thriller. High and Low, another Akira Kurosawa masterpiece. This one happens to be one of my top 5. It is very, very intense and has 2 different shifts in the movie. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1964 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because you never know what could happen. Goldfinger, perhaps one of the best of all the Bond films. This is one where a lot of the classic Bondisms are created. Be sure to check this one out. Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Stanley Kubrick's wonderful Cold War dark comedy. This one is so funny, and it's very, very, very good. Richard Lester's A Hard Day's Night. This film features the Beatles, and it is really, really good. Be sure to check this one out. Band of Outsiders, one of Jean-Luc Godard's best movies, in my opinion. This film is very, very great, and that scene in the cafe where they're just dancing, whew. The Killers, the second adaptation of Ernest Hemingway's classic story. This one features a future president. Can you guess which one? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1965 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, because of algorithms, you know? Akira Kurosawa's Redbeard. This one cost a lot of money, and it is rather long. However, the attention to detail that the director puts into this movie is unparalleled. Be sure to check this one out. Thunderball, 4th film in the James Bond franchise. This film gives us a lot of new things, including a wonderful song by Tom Jones. Sergio Leone's For a Few Dollars More. This one outdoes the first one in every conceivable way. Dr. Zhivago, come on. Yeah, just watch it. Alphaville, Jean-Luc Godard's science fiction noir masterpiece. Be sure to check this one out because, yeah, it's really good. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1966 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because, you know. Batman, the film adaptation from the TV series of the same name starring Adam West and Burt Ward. Be sure to check this one out because this gives you pretty much all you need to know from the TV series in under 2 hours. Django, the spaghetti western masterpiece. There's been countless sequels. I can't even count them all. However, this one is one to check out. Sergio Leone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The technical masterpiece from this director, and he once had a great quote, "People will forgive you for your failures, but not for your successes." The Fortune Cookie. Billy Wilder, Jack Lemmon, and Walter Matthau. Their first on-screen pairing. Be sure to check this one out. It is a lot of fun. How to Steal a Million. Audrey Hepburn in this very fun film. You really should check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1967 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list because I really would appreciate it. The Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman and Anne Bancroft. There's a lot to be said about this movie, but we don't really have the time. Bonnie and Clyde, Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway do this classic story, and this one is pretty violent. This is one of those films that kind of really destroyed that production code and introduced a new level of violence in cinema, at least in America. You Only Live Twice. Sean Connery would leave the role of James Bond after this, but he would return. This one's pretty interesting, and it does have a secret volcano lair. Two for the Road.
Albert Finley and Audrey Hepburn in this road film classic. Be sure to check this one out. The Jungle Book, one of Walt Disney's best films. It was also the last film he got to work on personally before his death. Be sure to check this one out because it is very good. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1968 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. There's a lot to be said about this movie, but you really just need to watch it. Rosemary's Baby. Roman Polanski did a apartment trilogy, and this is one of those films. It is a very, very interesting film, and Mia Farrow gives an amazing performance. The Odd Couple. Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon team up for this Neil Simon classic. It is very funny and really great, and it even made its own TV series. And a sequel. Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West. One of my top 5 films of all time. This film is so good, I can't even begin to tell you in the amount of time that we have, so please just check it out. George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. This independent masterpiece has gone on for years and years and years and has spawned numerous sequels, franchises, everything you can think of. It is so good. Check it out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1969 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Army of Shadows, one of Jean-Pierre Melville's most standout films. Be sure to check this one out. It is fantastic. Easy Rider, the start of BBS Film Productions. This is a great movie, and you should at least check it out one time in your life because you really owe it to yourself. Take the money and run. Woody Allen stars in this film, and you really just need to check it out. Just do it. The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. This is a studio classic. However, it is pretty good. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This is probably one of the most grounded James Bond films, and it features one-time Bond actor George Lazenby. It's not nearly as bad as so many say. It is actually quite underrated. Be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next decade. Here are 5 films from 1970 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. I really would appreciate it. Le Cercle Rouge. Jean-Pierre Melville's noir masterpiece. This film is so good. Even with its length, you still will be surprised how fast it goes by. MASH. Ever wonder where the famous TV show came from? It was from this film, and it is very entertaining and holds up pretty well. The 12 Chairs. One of the more interesting films in Mel Brooks' canon. This features Frank Langella and Dom DeLuise. It is very funny, and I really suggest you check it out. Brian De Palma's Hi Mom. This is a sequel to Greetings, and this is where Brian De Palma stole in his comedy feature era. It's pretty funny and kind of different. I would check it out. Billy Wilder's The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes. This movie is a lot of fun. Be sure to check out Christopher Lee as Mycroft. It's a wonderful performance, and it's a pretty great movie too. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1971 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. A movie so controversial that the director had the film pulled from his home country in England up until his death. That is power that you can have as a director, and not many had it. Dirty Harry, one of Clint Eastwood's most famous performances. It led to an entire franchise. This is the best of the series though, and I really would check this one out. THX 1138, George Lucas's feature-length debut. It is a really great movie about escaping Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You've seen countless remakes, but the original still has a place in everyone's heart because of Gene Wilder's wonderful performance. Duel, Steven Spielberg's feature-length debut. Originally started as a TV movie, and they later expanded it to a feature-length movie. This one is really good, and you see how great Steven Spielberg is at a very young age. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1972 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather. A lot of people say this is one of the best films of all time. What do you say? Be sure to check it out. It had 2 more sequels too. Pink Flamingos, John Waters' trashy masterpiece. I can't say half the things I want to say about this film. You'll just have to watch it and take my word for it. Play It Again, Sam. Woody Allen's homage to film as well as Casablanca and Bogart. Be sure to check this one out. Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy. This is one of his later movies, and it is a very different one. However, there's a scene on a potato truck. That's all I need to say. The Mechanic, starring Charles Bronson. This is one of Bronson's best films, and I think it's significantly better than both of the remake and its sequel. Be sure to check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1973 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay in the list because I really would appreciate it. The Sting. This film works on every single level, critically and audiences. Just check it out. It's a heist comedy masterpiece. Fun all around. George Lucas's American Graffiti. If you didn't know better, you'd think this movie was Dazed and Confused, but in the 50s. William Friedkin's The Exorcist. This is one scary movie. Sam Peckinpah's Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. This film features some singers that I really like, but it is actually a pretty darn good Western. Be sure to check it out, and all of its very famous cuts. Live and Let Die. Roger Moore takes over for Sean Connery in the James Bond role, and this is probably one of the most fun James Bond movies there is. Be sure to check it out because it's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1974 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because I really would appreciate it. Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles. You really need to watch this movie. It is fantastic. Co-written by Richard Pryor. Very, very funny stuff. Roman Polanski's Chinatown. This film is filled with wonderful performances, beautiful visuals, and just a great story. Check this one out. John Carpenter's premiere movie, Dark Star. This was co-written by Dan O'Bannon, who would later go on to do Return of the Living Dead. It's goofy, it's fun, it's quite a film. Check it out. The Godfather Part 2. Many people think this is better than the first one. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. This film is just awesome. Be sure to check this one out because it really, really shows you what New York was like in the 1970s. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1975 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because I really would appreciate it. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This is one of Jack Nicholson's best films. You also get to see Christopher Lloyd and Danny DeVito, as well as Brad Dourif. Who? Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. While he never got to make his Napoleon film, this was as close that we would get to it. It was kind of like a dress rehearsal for it. Very wonderfully shot, especially with some of those candlelit scenes. Steven Spielberg's Jaws. This was the blockbuster that really changed how cinema was done from here on out. 3 Days of Condor. If you liked Captain America the Winter Soldier, you really should check this film out. And, you know, there might be an actor that might be in both films. Deep Red. Dario Argento's giallo masterpiece. This film had a huge influence on the horror community, and it really still holds up. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1976 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. I really would appreciate it. Rocky, Sylvester Stallone's breakout role. This film holds up to this day as one of those underdog stories you can always watch again and again. Be sure to check this one out. It also had a lot of sequels. All the President's Men. 2 journalists take down a president? Is that possible? Silver Streak. Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor team up in this wonderful film that you really should check out. Network. This film won a lot of Oscars, and it's really, really good, but it's really, really dark. I highly recommend you check this one out. John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13. This is one of the earliest films for the director, and it is fantastic, his command of the cinematic language. Be sure to check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1977 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because I really would appreciate it. George Lucas's Star Wars. Believe it or not, this film was highly influenced by a Akira Kurosawa film. Yeah, and this is the one that started an entire franchise. The Spy Who Loved Me. Roger Moore knocks it out of the park with his turn as James Bond in this film, and this one is just so good. Check it out. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. If you look at this film as a kind of spiritual prequel to E.T., it kind of has a very different feeling to it. Check this one out. Sorcerer. William Friedkin's remake of The Wages of Fear. This film is fantastic, especially that bridge sequence. It is nail-biting. House, or Hausu. One of the craziest films you'll ever see. I am dead serious. Watch this film with friends. It's great. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you. Here are 5 films from 1978 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because this is a good one. Richard Donner's Superman the Movie. I consider this the criterion of all superhero movies. John Carpenter's Halloween. This also is the criterion of what would follow in the golden age of the slasher film. Brian De Palma's The Fury. This follows up from Carrie, and it's a bit of a forgotten gem. Some really good performances in this one. Walter Hill's The Driver. Drive in the 70s? Sign me up. Finally, one of the best looking films of the decade, Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven. Just watch this film. It is so fun to watch. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1979 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list because... Alien. Science fiction slasher in outer space, which went on to spawn a huge franchise? It all starts here. David Cronenberg's The Brood. No, I'm not talking about this brood. I'm talking about this brood. This film is intense. Check it out. Mad Max. Years before the apocalypse, Mad Max was kind of a futuristic movie with him as a police officer. Very different than the rest of the franchise. Roman Polanski's Tess, based on the novel Tess of the Uberville. This film is just gorgeous. Some of the best photography you'll see. Really holds up there with Days of Heaven. And finally we have Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2. Or Zombie, whatever you want to call it. This is just gore. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1980 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because it's the 80s, baby! Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill. This update of a certain Hitchcock movie is very, very, very well made. I've talked about it at length. The Empire Strikes Back, my favorite of the entire Star Wars franchise, and a popular belief that the sequel is usually better than the first one, at least in terms of franchise. John Carpenter's The Fog, Janet Leigh and Jamie Lee Curtis in the same movie. Raging Bull, the film that put Martin Scorsese back on the map, and unfortunately it would take him another 26 years to get his Oscar, but this movie is a powerhouse. Check it out. Finally, we have Paul Schrader's American Gigolo. This movie is very powerful, and this movie created a vibe unto its own. And this is where the song is from. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1981 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because it's the 80s. Steven Spielberg's Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you ever wondered what would happen if you took the main character out of the movie and nothing would change, this is the movie. I'm just kidding. This movie's a lot of fun. Time Bandits. No, not the TV show. The Terry Gilliam movie that's actually a lot darker than most people remember it. Brian De Palma's Blowout. This is my all-time favorite movie. I've talked about it at length at other places. Look for those. Michael Mann's Thief. Another one of my all-time favorite films. This film is just cool on levels you can't even believe. Be sure to check out the director's cut, which gives it a little more of that blue feeling. The Road Warrior. Or Mad Max 2. Whichever you want to call it. Now, the apocalypse has happened, and this is pretty much the Mad Max most of us are familiar with. And this one is the one to check out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1982 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because it's the 80s. Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. One of my all-time favorites. This movie has a lot of different cuts, but they're all very, very similar. I would say check out the final cut from 2007. If you're confused by that, watch the original 1982 theatrical cut, and then go from there. John Carpenter's The Thing, a closer adaptation of the original novella. This one is amazing, and to this day is probably one of the scariest films you'll ever see. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. This one is what put Star Trek in the movie pantheon, as well as its pop culture pantheon. Be sure to check this one out. Ricardo Montalban, Dario Argento's Tenebrae, his most over-the-top and probably best of all of his genre films. We have Tron. There's so much to like about this movie. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1983 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because it's the 80s. 10 to Midnight, my first midnight movie. This one is a Charles Bronson slasher that is pretty of its time, but it's a lot of fun. John Carpenter's Christine. What happens when John Carpenter and Stephen King team up? Honk honk. What happens when David Cronenberg and Stephen King team up? We get the Dead Zone. The ice is gonna break. Psycho 2. Had it not been called Psycho 2, probably would have done a lot better. However, this movie is very, very good. Check it out. Finally, we have Staying Alive.
Sylvester Stallone's follow-up to Saturday Night Fever. Nothing like the original and very over the top. However, it is very, very entertaining. Maybe not for all the right reasons, but I would highly recommend this film. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1984 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, because it's the 80s! Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is the very, very dark sequel, which has the most insane pace for a film I've ever seen. Be sure to check this one out, because this is the one I watched more as a kid. Repo Man. This film is just a lot of fun. A science fiction, noir, thriller, comedy? James Cameron's The Terminator. The first, the original, and still the best. The tech-noir masterpiece. Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America. This film is amazing. It's a shame that its full uncut version has yet to be released, but see it in the longest version that you possibly can. It is a fantastic movie. Brian De Palma's Body Double, the controversial classic, starring not Bill Maher. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1985 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, because it's the 80s! John Hughes' The Breakfast Club. Yep, the whole teenage genre is best defined by this film. Clue. Just see the movie. Akira Kurosawa's Ran. This movie was so good, so epic. In fact, he made a whole other movie just to get prepared for this movie. Check this late masterpiece out. Richard Donner's The Goonies. This 80s classic is a lot of fun. We got Cyndi Lauper and a reference to how Richard Donner felt about the Superman movies. Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future. Once again, do I really need to say anything? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1986 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because I really would appreciate it. And it's the 80s! David Lynch's Blue Velvet. Yeah, this is a very weird movie, but it's one of David Lynch's best. It's a precursor to Twin Peaks in a lot of different ways. Ridley Scott's Legend. I would be sure to find the director's cut of this film because it is far superior than the US theatrical release. However, they're both available in different forms, but watch them both. Running Scared. Billy Crystal, Gregory Hines, in Chicago as cops. Big Trouble in Little China. This is what happens when John Carpenter goes big budget. And this film's a lot of fun and a little ahead of its time too. Big influence on Thor. David Cronenberg's The Fly. Whew, this movie. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 1987 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, because it's the 80s! The Untouchables. Brian De Palma and David Mamet make a film that both the audience and the critics really, really enjoyed. Check this one out. Mannequin. This is probably one of my favorite guilty pleasures of all time. I really like the movie. I think you should check it out. It's really up for a remake. Maybe Emma Stone. And me. Spaceballs. Mel Brooks takes on Star Wars. Yep, Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket. This film is extremely intense and one of his most memorable in his entire catalog. R. Lee Ermey gives one of his defining performances in this film. Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop. This ultra-violent, ultra-comedic, ultra-parody film is really one of those that you should check out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1988 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, because it's the 80s! Robert Zemeckis' Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This technical masterpiece, child-friendly-ish film noir is just so much good. Die Hard, that movie that took Bruce Willis, a TV star, and made him into an action-packed megastar. The Naked Gun. Just watch it. Richard Donner's Scrooged, a modern update on A Christmas Carol. This is a lot of fun, and Bill Murray gives a very good performance despite actually hating the movie. Errol Morris's The Thin Blue Line. This is a very, very wonderfully made documentary, and an important one in film history as well. Be sure to check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1989 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list, because it's the 80s! Tim Burton's Batman. This film basically changed all the rules in Hollywood and set a new standard for its marketing. Joe Dante's The Burbs. Yeah, you're just gonna have to watch this one. When Harry Met Sally. I'll have what she's having. Ridley Scott's Black Rain. I really enjoyed this film. I think you should check this one out. The Little Mermaid, the film that helped put Walt Disney Studios back into the forefront of animation. Be sure to check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 1990 that you're going to want to check out. Bit of a spoiler. There's a lot of sequels in this one. Irvin Kershner's RoboCop 2. This movie really over-delivers in terms of how good a sequel could be. Be sure to check this one out. It is very out there. Renny Harlin's Die Hard 2. Die Harder. This film kind of outdoes everything in terms of over-the-topness, but I really like the setting of an airport. Kind of different. Paul Verhoeven's Total Recall. This movie is an over-the-top science fiction action blockbuster starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. It is crazy. See you at the party. Gremlins 2. What happens when the film just goes full-blown meta? This is what happens. Jack Nicholson's The Two Jakes. Yes, this is a sequel to Chinatown. Yes, it's a good movie. No, it is not as good as the original. Yes, it is worth your time. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1991 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because... Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs. This is one of those films that you really need to see, although it is the second film in the Hannibal Lecter franchise. Hudson Hawk. This is what happens when Bruce Willis tries to attempt to become Leslie Nielsen. Does it really work? No. But is it entertaining? Yes. James Cameron's Terminator 2. This is the film that changed special effects forever and really outdoes the first one in terms of box office and scale. Terry Gilliam's The Fisher King gives us one of the best Robin Williams performances of all time. And a pretty good turn for Jeff Bridges as well. You should check this one out. Martin Scorsese's remake of Cape Fear. This one features Nick Nolte and Robert De Niro, and these two give really good performances. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1992 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Bill Duke's Deep Cover. Lawrence Fishburne stars in this urban film noir masterpiece. This film is just so good. I really highly recommend you check it out. Robert Altman's The Player, a very cynical, dark look into the world of Hollywood. This is a wonderful, dark film, and really recommend you check it out. Tiny Toon Adventures, How I Spent My Summer Vacation. Yes, there's a direct-to-video on this list. How about that? This film is so much fun, and yeah, you get the whole series in really short amount of time. Bebe's Kids. Check it out. Stay tuned. This wonderfully 90s film is, just watch this one. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1993 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Chris Columbus's Mrs. Doubtfire, the ultimate film to deal with divorce. This movie is a lot of fun, and it is one of Robin Williams' best movies. Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. Based on the Michael Crichton novel, this film went on to spawn a franchise that just keeps going. I think they missed the point of the original book, though. Harold Ramis's Groundhog Day. This is probably one of the best comedies you'll ever seen, and it is so rewatchable because there's countless interpretations. Joel Schumacher's Falling Down, a wonderful movie starring Michael Douglas, and yeah, I've talked about it here before. John McTiernan's Last Action Hero. Arnold Schwarzenegger has a lot of fun with his character and himself as a person in this film. Be sure to check this one out. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1994 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list because... Alex Proyas's The Crow. The first, the original, the best. Speed. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock. Wonderful team up in this film about trying to stop a bus. Disney's The Lion King. I can't do the film justice in a few seconds. Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers. This actually was a Quentin Tarantino script, but doesn't really retain much of it. Tim Burton's Ed Wood. One of my favorite all-time biopics, and this is probably one of my all-time favorite Tim Burton films. Very lovingly made and very, very well done. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1995 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay at the end of the list. Die Hard with a Vengeance. What happens when you write a spec script that somehow turns into a Die Hard movie? Same thing that happens to pretty much all Die Hard movies. Toy Story, the revolutionary animated feature film that came out and changed how films were made forever. GoldenEye. Not only was it one of the best video games for Nintendo 64, this happened to be Pierce Brosnan's best take on the role. Yeah. The Jerky Boys. This movie's hilarious. Not what we call a classic, but it's a lot of fun. Check it out. David Fincher's Seven. What's in the box? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1996 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Michael Bay's The Rock. Yes, we got a Michael Bay movie on here, and it's probably his best. Just watch this film. It's so entertaining. The Birdcage. Robin Williams and Nathan Lane star in this American remake of La Cage aux Folles. Fargo. The Coen brothers' masterpiece that has turned into one of the best shows on FX. Mission Impossible. A huge franchise that you no doubt heard of. Did you know the original was directed by Brian De Palma? The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This film is so dark, so sad, and it's a Disney movie. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1997 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. James L. Brooks, As Good as It Gets. This movie is fun, sad, and just great. Men in Black. Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones are saving the world, and this film still rocks. Lost Highway. This film has a lot in common with what he would direct next, Mulholland Drive. However, it takes a lot of different twists and turns. Be sure to check this one out. Breakdown. Kurt Russell and his wife in the movie break down. No, I'm just kidding. There's a lot more to it. Con Air. What happens when you don't put the bunny back in the box? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 1998 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Dark City. This film is a wonderful science fiction noir. Yeah. The Coen brothers' The Big Lebowski. I could talk to nauseam about this film, but I'll just say it's probably the best comedy film noir ever made. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Johnny Depp, Benicio del Toro, and Terry Gilliam. Whoa, the creativity was off the charts for this one. Small Soldiers. What if we did a live-action, more violent Toy Story? Blade. One of the coolest characters you'll ever see in film, ever. Check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. Here are 5 films from 1999 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. I would appreciate it. Stephen Sommers' remake of The Mummy. This film is so much fun. Brendan Fraser gives us an Indiana Jones-esque film of the 90s, and the special effects are on point, the story's on point, the casting's on point. This film's on point. Jay Roach's Austin Powers in The Spy Who Shagged Me. This film tops the first one in every conceivable way. It's my favorite of the film series, and it's probably one of my favorite comedies of all time. Toy Story 2. My favorite in the entire Toy Story franchise. I know it's not 3, but 2 is so much fun. The scale is insane. Kevin Smith's Dogma. This movie is offensive on so many different levels. Blast from the Past. One of my all-time favorite romantic comedies starring Brendan Fraser and Alicia Silverstone. This film is sweet and fun, and it's one of those Adam and Eve type movies. You know what I'm saying? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it. Here are 5 films from the year 2000. Wow, that sounded different. Frequency. Dennis Quaid, Jim Caviezel in this interesting time travel movie-ish. Ridley Scott's Gladiator, a huge comeback for the director, and this really helped put Russell Crowe in that next upper echelon with his performance. Be sure to check this one out. Bryan Singer's X-Men, the first appearance of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Yes, this came out 24 years ago. Still got it, Hugh. Ron Howard's Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring Jim Carrey in one of his, if not his, best performances. This film is a lot of fun, very humorous. Guy Ritchie's Snatch, one of the best heist films of all time, and probably the best example of a MacGuffin. ever. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 2001 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. I would appreciate it. Steven Soderbergh's remake of Ocean's 11, which is better than the original. I said it. This film is amazing. Sequels. Original. 3,000 Miles to Graceland. Yeah, check it out. Terry Zweigoff's Ghost World, based on the graphic novel of the same name. This is a really, really good movie. A lot of people make comparisons to Wes Anderson's Rushmore. What do you think? Brett Ratner's Rush Hour 2. This film outdoes the first one in every conceivable way. The chemistry is on point, the jokes land, and the story? Pretty good, although it is a little bit familiar. Antoine Fuqua's Training Day. Denzel gives one of his best performances in this film, and it is so intense. Check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 2002 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. David Fincher's Panic Room. This might feel like a B-level Hitchcock movie, but it's directed by David Fincher, and some of his tracking shots that he does. Danny DeVito's Death to Smoochie. This extremely dark film, starring Edward Norton and Robin Williams, takes a very grimy look at children's TV hosts. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, building off the success of Blade and X-Men, they went full-fledged with the outfit, and one of the best moments for all comic book fans. Doug Liman's The Bourne Identity. This film was incredible, and it launched an amazing trilogy, and then they kept making more. Lilo and Stitch, a gem in the Disney canon at this time. Its look and feel was completely different than anything else Disney had done prior or since. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. Here are 5 films from 2003 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Gore Verbinski's Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. This film, along with all of its stars, helped propel the pirates genre relevant again. There would be countless sequels. Joel Schumacher's Phone Booth. Yep, an action movie from a phone booth. Seriously. Terry Zweigoff's Bad Santa. There's a few different cuts of this movie flowing around. The director's cut is actually the shortest and may not be the one that most people are most familiar with. Michael Bay's Bad Boys 2. This film outdoes the first one in every single possible way. It's fantastic, it's over the top. Freddy vs. Jason, a film that was in development for almost a decade, gives horror fans exactly what they want. Exactly what they want. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2004 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, a film that people keep saying is the best. What do you think? Euro Trip. Immature humor at its best. Very entertaining movie, though. Steven Spielberg's The Terminal. Tom Hanks, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Stanley Tucci give wonderful performances in this just fun movie. Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy. Just imagine a director making a movie with all of his heart. Jonathan Hensleigh's The Punisher. Probably one of my favorite adaptations, starring Thomas Jane, and we have John Travolta in a villainous role. This film's a lot of fun, and there is a cameo of this character in Spider-Man 2. Gotta look for it, though. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. Here are 5 films from 2005 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Frank Miller's Sin City. With help of Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, the pages come to life in this film, and cinema would never be the same. Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins, the first in the Dark Knight trilogy, I also think the best, was Land of the Dead, the final film in George A. Romero's original Dead franchise, beginning with Night, Dawn, Day. Land takes us even further into the future where zombies and humans are coexisting, and it's kind of a classist thing. Very, very, very good. George Clooney's Good Night and Good Luck. A wonderful look at the era of the blacklist. Shane Black's Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. If you didn't like Iron Man 3, then you should just watch this movie instead. It's a lot of fun, and it's Shane Black at his best. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 2006 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Martin Campbell's Casino Royale. A huge reboot for the franchise, and now Bond is blonde. Daniel Craig gives probably his best performance as the naive Bond, and this would go on for another few movies, but would take the franchise in a completely different direction. Be sure to check out this one. V for Vendetta. A wonderful action movie that's not entirely accurate to its original source, but it is very entertaining nonetheless. Kind of like a 1984 with a superhero type thing. Crank. Jason Statham in one of his most over-the-top performances. This film is so much fun. It even had a crazier sequel. Martin Scorsese's The Departed finally gave him the Oscar that he should have already had. Look out for X's in this film. It's his homage to the original Scarface. Children of Men, which we all know that one scene. You know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 2007 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. The Coen Brothers' No Country for Old Men. This film is just incredible. Wonderful performances by Josh Brolin and Javier Bardem, as well as Tommy Lee Jones. It's dark, and it doesn't really go the way you want it to go. David Fincher's Zodiac. If you're familiar with the director's work, then I would check this one out based on that merit alone. Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez team up to release Grindhouse, probably the best theatrical experience I think I ever had going to the movies. It's a lot of fun, and it really takes you back to a very different time in cinema. Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz, the center flavor in Edgar Wright's 3 Flavors of Coronado trilogy. Be sure to check this lovely homage to police cinema. Michael Bay's Transformers. It's a guilty pleasure. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2008 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Lots of comics in this one. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. This was the most anticipated movie of my entire life because I love Batman Begins so much. It was incredible, and this movie kind of broke IMDb based on its pettiness of its fans, as well as Godfather fans. Jon Favreau's Iron Man, the first film in the MCU, the one that started it all. This film is a lot of fun. It still is fun, and it really makes you think of how far the franchise has come since its original inception. Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy 2. What if I told you this was the best film of the year because of Doug Jones and Ron Perlman singing Barry Manilow? That's it. Pixar's WALL-E. I don't want to cry. I'm not going to talk about it. Clint Eastwood's Gran Torino. Yeah, this one was pretty powerful. It's about a car. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2009 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Jason Reitman's Up in the Air. Old versus new in terms of thinking. Anna Kendrick and George Clooney. Wonderful movie. Henry Selick's Coraline. After successfully collaborating with Tim Burton on Nightmare Before Christmas and James and Giant Peach, Selick kind of goes out on his own and really over-delivers. This is a fantastic movie. Check it out. Zack Snyder's Watchmen. I don't think you could have made a better adaptation of the book. It's probably one of the best adaptations of a comic ever, and it's a very, very good movie. J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. A wonderful reboot to the entire Star Trek franchise while paying homage to its roots. And finally, we have Pixar's Up. I don't want to cry, so I'm not going to talk about it. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2010 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Matthew Vaughn's Kick-Ass. What happens if a regular person decides just to be a superhero? But in an over-top world. Christopher Nolan's Inception. Building on the success and the goodwill that he has made with the Dark Knight franchise, Christopher Nolan does this wonderful heist film inside the brain. The Other Guys. Edgar Wright's Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Yeah, the editing in this movie, so amazing. It also happens to be a really darn good movie too. Who would have thought that Michael Cera could be a leading man? We have Piranha 3D. This is trash, but it is so much fun trash. A wonderful 3D update to the original Joe Dante film. To see it in 3D was just something else. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2011 that you're going to want to check out. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Stepping out of animation into the live-action world, This movie is just incredible and was one of the criterions for action films at the time. Source Code. What if we did Groundhog Day in an action movie setting? James Gunn's Super. This film takes Kick-Ass and just takes it to an entirely new level with even less of a budget. Rainn Wilson and Elliot Page are in this fantastic film, and when they announced James Gunn was in the MCU, I just thought of this movie. Crazy Stupid Love. This film is just fantastic. It's fun to watch, and that scene in the backyard at the end, oh man. Steven Soderbergh's Contagion. This film is extremely intense and would be more relevant in the upcoming years after its release. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 2012 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Joss Whedon's The Avengers. Yes, this is the first film that put all the characters in the same movie, building up what they've been doing for the previous 4 years. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. The much anticipated sequel to The Dark Knight. This film goes in different directions and has some incredible scenes. And as Skyfall. This is the film where Daniel Craig really inherits the mantle of James Bond and completely owns it. Dredd, the second adaptation of Judge Dredd. This film is incredible, and Karl Urban gives a wonderful performance in this very dark, noirish, technology-infused piece of cinema. Rian Johnson's Looper, a fantasy time travel action gangster type film full of twists and turns. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2013 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Shane Black's Iron Man 3. The follow-up to The Avengers brings us a 90s action writer-director in a 90s action-feeling movie in the 2013. It was a lot of fun, and Robert Downey Jr. and Shane Black had wonderful chemistry. Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead. It's a wonderfully loving-made adaptation of the original classic. It's a lot of fun, and it can be quite gross at sometimes. Martin Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street. This 3-hour movie doesn't feel anywhere near its runtime. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Don John. Yeah? Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine. Cate Blanchett gives a wonderful, wonderful performance in this incredible movie. Be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it. Here are 5 films from 2014 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Wes Anderson's The Grand Budapest Hotel. This film is so amazing, so funny, and just so Wes Anderson. Ivan Reitman's Draft Day, a football movie that has nothing to do with the actual playing of football, and mostly the politics and the news and the gossip about it. Yeah, it's actually really good. 22 Jump Street. This one kind of outdoes the first one in everything, including meta-ness. Magic in the Moonlight. Woody Allen and Emma Stone and Colin Firth team up to make this very fun travelogue comedy film. It's a lot of fun, and there's a little magic involved. X-Men Days of Future Past. This movie kind of tried to fix the Fox timeline of what they were trying to do based on failures, successes, and then they kind of ruined it after this. But this film was a lot of fun, and it kind of combines 2 different timelines. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Here are 5 films from 2015 that you're going to want to check out. George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road. This was the art action masterpiece that people had been waiting for. The proper sequel to Mad Max 2. Oh yeah, it's really, really good. Danny Boyle's Steve Jobs. With a script written by Aaron Sorkin, where could you go wrong? The film takes a darker look at the very creative genius that started Apple. Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. Samuel L. Jackson finally gets to star in a Tarantino film, and it is fantastic. It's dark, it's brooding, it's vicious, it's a wonderful homage to Westerns, and Ridley Scott's The Martian. Matt Damon is stuck on Mars, and it's nothing like Total Recall. Robert Zemeckis' The Walk. This is based on a person who did a high wire walk between the World Trade Center in the 1970s. It's kind of a movie. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 2016 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. The Coen Brothers' Hail Caesar. This film's about a Hollywood mogul dealing with all the stresses that you can imagine in the 1950s. It's a lot of fun. Shane Black's The Nice Guys. You seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang? Have you seen Iron Man 3? It's kind of in the same vein. Pop Star, Never Stop Stopping. Kind of like Spinal Tap before it. It's a lot of fun looking at a musician who's obsessed with themselves. Captain America Civil War. Yep, it's an Avengers film without being an Avengers film, and it gave us a brand new Spider-Man. Again. Tim Miller's Deadpool. This film broke all the rules and didn't really have the budget to do it, but it did. Check this one out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next. Here are 5 films from 2017 that you're going to want to check out. Be sure to stay to the end of the list. We have Kong Skull Island. Yeah, a kaiju film, but it would build to something bigger. Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. This film was well written, well directed, well acted, and very well edited. John Watts' Spider-Man Homecoming. Now that Marvel finally got to make their own Spider-Man movie, how are they going to do it? We're going to put Robert Downey Jr. in it. It. The big screen adaptation of Stephen King's wonderful book, It. John Wick. Chapter 2. Building on the first one, this one goes even crazier than the first one. Is there no stopping John Wick? Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2018 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Spike Lee's Black Klansman. A return to form for the director, and it was very, very, very well done. Highly recommend you check this one out. Crazy Rich Asians. Still waiting on those sequels. Ryan Coogler's Black Panther. This film is fantastic and one of the highlights of all the MCU. Highly recommend you checking out, and then we all know Michael B. Jordan gives one of the best performances of any villain. Avengers Infinity War. There's so many actors in this film, I think you just kind of have to put it on the list, right? And that Josh Brolin guy, yeah, not too bad. Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born. It's one of those movies that they really showed all the best visual shots in the trailer. I'm just saying, still good though. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next year. Here are 5 films from 2019 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Very, very entertaining, very, very well written. Not the most historically accurate, but still a lot of fun. Todd Phillips' Joker. This low-budget film, very similar to Deadpool, exceeded expectations and now has a sequel. Yep, Sam Mendes' World War I masterpiece, 1917. Beautifully shot. Intense, powerful. Avengers Endgame. A wonderful tying up all the loose ends that they've done up until that point. However, they'd keep making more movies after this. This would have been a very good place to stop for a little bit. Child's Play. Yes, they remade the movie and they kind of took what made the first one special about it out of it. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it. We're almost done, baby. Here are 5 films from 2020 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Yes, I said Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Me saying that might be a little easier to understand than this movie, but it was one of those biggest films of 2020. Sonic the Hedgehog. This is one of those films where the internet had an influence of getting the CGI done before the actual final movie. Imagine that. The Invisible Man. Trying to update the classic franchise in a modern context? Bad Boys for Life. A different take on the franchise, as Michael Bay did not return. However, still kind of entertaining. Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 84. A very, very, very polarizing film. However, it was one of the biggest of the year. I would say check it out. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. I really do appreciate it. Here are 5 films from 2021 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. John Watts' Spider-Man No Way Home. It's the trilogy ender, as well as that little coda for the MCU and the end of Phase 3. It's a wonderful film that really ties up a lot of the loose ends, and this would have been a wonderful place to stop. But they just kept going. Godzilla vs. Kong. What can I say about this movie? Mecha Godzilla, that's what I could say. Zack Snyder's Justice League. A film that finally got to get its official proper release, much like Richard Donner's release of Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. After getting fired from Marvel, he was able to pick up this job. And you know what? He did a good job. Wes Anderson's French Dispatch, a wonderful homage to journalism and Wes Anderson being Wes Anderson. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my list. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next year. Here are 5 films from 2022 that you're going to want to check out, but be sure to stay to the end of the list. Matt Reeves' The Batman. A film that made you feel like, wow, I feel like this is a really Batman-like Batman movie. Fantastic. Can't wait for what they're going to do with it next. Top Gun Maverick. Tom Cruise basically proves that he himself is a viable commodity, making a billion-dollar feature that wasn't a huge franchise. This film is just fantastic, well made, and an excellent addition to the Top Gun universe. Everything, everywhere, all at once. This film deserves all the hype that it got. It is fantastic, very well made, well acted, might bring a tear to your eye. Let's hope it does. Maybe you don't want to cry. I don't know. X. A24 creates its own horror franchise with this wonderful movie. Spirited. Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell make a very, very fun movie that they did for Apple TV. Yeah, it's a nice one. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the list. We got one more to go. Here are 5 films from 2023 that you're going to want to check out, or most likely you've probably already seen, but we got to put a capper on this thing. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, coming out the same day as another movie on this list. Whew! It was intense. Barbie just goes to show you that films based on properties can make a lot of money and makes a social difference. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. While Sony may not be making the best live-action Spider-Man movies in their own little franchise, their animation has been top-notch. Super Mario Bros. Wanting to distance itself from the original film, they make this one a lot of fun, and who could forget Jack Black? Wes Anderson's Asteroid City. Still making Wes Anderson films, even in the 2020s. Hey, check this one out. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much. You made it to the end of the list of lists. We're going to be doing something new tomorrow, so be sure to stay tuned.